What it do, cuckolds? It's your boy, the hater, up in this mug. You know what I'm saying? Hater at home, cucks. That's how we roll nowadays. Let's talk about Raw and why this was one of the worst episodes of all time. You know, I'll even give you a little prelude, a little preview, if you will, as to why that is. Basically, nobody that's wrestling at WrestleMania did anything tonight. You know what I mean? Certainly nobody in any of the matches that would be considered important, you know? Yes, some jobbers wrestled, like Chad Gable, but beyond that, like, let's be real, nobody that's going to be on WrestleMania had any sort of impact on this match, on this episode, I should say, and obviously the matches as well. So as usual, let's just go through this as we tend to do, segment by segment, all right. So first up, the show starts, and it's a contract signing for the women's world title match, whatever, the Raw one, you know what I mean? I don't know the titles by name, you know what I'm saying? The Raw women's title, cugs. Rhea Ripley, as everyone who is not compulsively retarded would have guessed, Rhea Ripley gets added to the match for no reason, you know what I'm saying? No reason at all, there is no rationale explained. You know, she just gets added in because she cannot be controlled. Wow, what an interesting concept, right? Well, maybe Braun Strowman should go and attack Cody Rhodes every day for a week. You know what I mean? Or for a month, or even for the whole road to WrestleMania. And then he can just be added to the world title match because he can't be controlled. This is incredibly stupid and could have easily been handled in a much better way. Like, for example, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky do like a double pin or something like that, right? She Bianca Belair cuts a shit promo because she has absolutely zero mic skills. You know, also, by the way, I should point out that Bianca Belair she was wearing this leather skirt. She looked weird, but not as weird as Io Sky, who basically came out looking like a prostitute. You know what I'm saying? Bianca cuts a shit promo, but she is otherwise 100% right. You know what I mean? The points that she's making are, well, first she says, I don't care anymore because I'm not afraid of you. But basically, she says, like, she's done everything right. You know what I mean? She won the chamber. You know, she was the special guest referee. And despite this, right? Despite this, all of a sudden, she's effectively being punished. Her one-on-one opportunity is being turned into a triple threat. Io Sky doesn't verbalize this, but she attacks them both afterwards. She also is getting screwed. She thought she was going to defend in a one-on-one match, and now it's a triple threat match. The only person that benefits is the one that doesn't deserve it, Rhea Ripley, because she's done nothing but lose for the last several weeks. Anyways, it is what it is. This match is made official after the contract signing. Another match that's made official is the Intercontinental title match, right? This is going to be Dominic Mysterio, who is getting a title shot for no reason whatsoever, despite not winning a match in months, versus Penta, who deserves it because he's been winning all his matches, versus Braun Breaker, who's the champion, and wrestles about once a month at this point. And the fourth guy, Finn Balor. Did I say Finn Balor? And Finn Balor, who also hasn't won in weeks. Anyways, it's a fatal four-way. I think it's an acceptable match within the context of WrestleMania because it's a throwaway match. It's not one of those Intercontinental title matches that matter. Like, remember there was one where it was like Cookie Rhodes versus Big Show for the Intercontinental title? Like, that mattered, right? The storyline was Big Show needs it to be a Grand Slam champion. This is not the case right now. But it doesn't matter. The match has a little bit of, I don't want to call it a storyline, but the whole Judgment Day, like Finn Balor getting a little bit too big for his britches thing is coming to a head. You know, hopefully Dominic Mysterio wins. I think Dominic deserves it in terms of like being an entertaining wrestler. He doesn't deserve the title shot in kayfabe, but in real life, like he's more entertaining than basically everyone else in this match. You know, and at this point, almost including Braun Breaker too, because, you know, the hater has to ask, what have you done for me lately? You know, when he has a match, Braun Breaker has the best match on the card, but he doesn't wrestle enough. So I think it's time to move him to the main event unceremoniously. He should just one day just be in the main event randomly, and Dominic Mysterio should win the title. You know, Finn Balor, he's been in this position 1,000 times. This is no different than any of those times, cucks. Then we got the women's IC title match. It's Lyra Valkyria versus Bayley. The match takes forever. Lyra predictably wins with a roll-up, and Bayley is mad. And I don't care, cuckolds. Then they have Bert Kreischer there. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more than I should, but at a later point. Bert is there, and we get another American made and American alpha segment. Otis and Bert are shirtless and they hug. Wow, hilarious. Then we get an AJ Styles interview, and he gets interrupted by Karrion Kross, who now straightens his hair like a woman. You know, he basically has ruined the one thing he had going for him, which was that he had an intimidating look when he was bald. You know, the hater had long hair up until a few weeks ago when I shaved that shit off because I was like, it's time to be a man. You know what I mean? Karrion Kross not only has long hair, but he straightens his long hair, motherfuckers. He irons it, probably with his wife's iron. You know, I don't like Karrion Kross. I don't think he should be employed anymore. This puppet master thing, like, he hasn't pulled any strings. He hasn't done anything. He's a complete waste. AJ Styles is going to bury him completely next week when they have a match. LWO without Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano and the Creed brothers is next, right? I don't like El Grande Americano. I think it's a really stupid idea. I think only the dumbest people in the world would find this entertaining. But it is what it is, you know? Like, I don't make the decisions here, but if I did, El Grande Americano would just be Chad Gable, right? Nothing is coming out of this. It's really stupid. And the only purpose this could possibly serve would be that him and Rey Mysterio will wrestle at WrestleMania. It should be a mask for a mask match, or Rey Mysterio should otherwise unmask him, you know? And everybody will know that it's Chad Gable. So nothing good is coming out of this. You know, how about make a match that matters, you know? That match was made after the LWO lose to Chad Gable and the Creed brothers. Obviously, the LWO were going to lose. Raul Mendoza hasn't had a televised match in about 7 years, you know what I mean? So even though I think he's the best luchador that they got, you know, he doesn't wear a mask, but he's still a luchador, right? That happened. Then at some point, I don't remember exactly when this was, but Tony Hinchcliffe, the comedian, is on commentary. Now, Tony Hinchcliffe is a big wrestling fan, and he is relatively funny. But for any of you that have watched Kill Tony on Netflix, you will see that it's one of the least funny 2 hours in the history of humanity, right? I don't think there's been 2 hours like that I've experienced in my life that were less funny. Like, taking a nap for an hour and 45 minutes and waking up on a plane, you'll find something funnier than you would in these 2 hours, right? This should be addressed in a separate video, but basically the Joe Rogan comedians, which include like Brett Kreischer, Tom Segura now. The first few Tom Segura specials were pretty decent. You know, I'm a big comedy guy, right? And then you have people like Shane Gillis. Like, these guys like are not funny at all. You know, I hate to be that guy, but it's like Cat Williams said, you know, he said it perfectly. He's like, Joe Rogan has the 5-6 guys that he's trying to put over that have never been funny. He's 100% right. None of these guys are funny at all, you know? And it's honestly, like, disgusting. When I watched Kill Tony, I was like, this is and I hate to bury these motherfuckers, because, you know, everybody's got a dream, and I believe in pursuing your dreams, and I'm not saying that none of them can improve, but as it stands now, absolutely none of the people that performed on Kill Tony, except for that black guy named Cam, he was okay. He was, like, you know, as funny as, like, one of the haters' not so funny friends. You know what I mean? That was the standard. Everybody else was just not funny at all. Like, it's like, I don't know why these people even went into comedy. They're not funny at all. You know? Like, there was that one girl, she just like her entire joke was like, I'm not a lesbian. Great, nobody gives a fuck. How about say something funny, clown? Make me laugh, jester. You know? None of those guys were funny at all. They had one guy who was just being a retard, basically. It was this guy with long hair. He just, like, had nonsense. He pulled out a bunch of rubies. I don't know why everyone laughed at that. It was really, really bad. It was cringe, but, like, not in a good way. It was just like, yo, these people literally have no reason to do comedy. Like it's disrespectful to show these people to me and tell me this is comedy. Like, it's not comedy at all. I watched the Netflix movie with, like, SZA and Kiki Palmer, and that was, like, even that bullshit was funnier than what I saw in Kill Tony, which is supposed to be, like, stand-up comedy. I don't watch Kill Tony, like, regularly. I just watched the Netflix one because I assumed they would curate the funniest comedians. No, it was just another episode. Just another episode, cucks. Anyways, let's move on to the remainder of the show. Cuckolds! Jey Uso and Gunther have, like, a stare down, right? This was really, really bad and really, really stupid. First of all, Gunther comes out dressed like Vince McMahon, you know what I mean? Like, shut the fuck up. Like, shut your mouth, Gunther. Nobody wants to hear you talk ever. Luckily, that's what we get. But instead, we are treated to a Jey Uso promo, which is just as bad. Jey Uso, whose only reaction should be, to bash Gunther in the back with a chair. Like, instead of doing that, he just comes out and talks. And this promo can best be summarized by saying this. There was one man who was trying to convince another man that he's not afraid of him. Now, this might be a compelling storyline in some contexts, but it is not one for WrestleMania, right? Like 2 weeks before the match, the guy says, I'm not scared of you. If you were scared of him, why would he go after him? Choose Cookie Rhodes. Actually main event WrestleMania, you're not scared of him. This storyline was written so poorly. Then Jey Uso, or as I like to call him now, Pussy Uso, then explains how his mother said, why didn't you protect your brother, Joshua? Who the fuck is Joshua? In kayfabe, this guy is Jey Uso. Why is he Joshua? I didn't like that at all. But anyways, whatever, right? Jey Uso says, Gunther, I'm going to beat your ass at WrestleMania. That was the whole point of this promo. And he's very serious this time around, right? Who the fuck cares? Let's just get this match over with. This is about as compelling as El Grande Luchador or El Grande Americano at this point. Like, it's not interesting because the storyline hasn't focused on the fact that this is Jay's big moment as the Royal Rumble winner. It has focused on the fact that Jay's a pussy. And nobody can get behind a pussy. Then we learn, like I said, that Rey versus El Grande Luchador is going to happen at WrestleMania, and nobody cared. Then we have New Day versus, what are they called? The War Raiders, right? The match goes on for quite a while in terms of the fact that, it shouldn't go on this long. And basically, Xavier Woods and Ivar are, fighting over a chair. And then Xavier Woods lets go of it, and Ivar hits him in the stomach, and the referee turns around at that moment and justifiably disqualifies Ivar, who's like, no, what do you mean no? You hit him with a chair, what are you, retarded? Another thing that was really stupid about this is that although Xavier Woods would be a decently muscular guy, he's a muscular guy for sure, compared to normal people, there is no universe in which he has any chance of pulling a chair away from Ivar. So this spot was really dumb, because Ivar should be able to pull it away from him in 1 second. It's like if Big Show is fighting over who's going to control the chair between him and Jeff Hardy, or him and even Randy Orton. It's just silly. Obviously Big Show would pull it away from them easily, So that's what I didn't like. After the match is over, because it ends by disqualification, the New Day do a post-match ass whooping on, what are they called? On the War Raiders, right? One noteworthy moment was Kofi Kingston hits Ivar in the back, clearly, with a chair. And Michael Cole says, he nearly decapitated him. Ivar has neck injuries. Well, it's a good thing, then, that Kofi Kingston hit him in the back and not at all in the neck. This is just ridiculous. The amount of gaslighting is just preposterous, right? Then we have Pentagon, or Penta, I should say, versus Dom, right? The match is pretty decent. Dom does the Mexican Destroyer, also known as the Canadian Destroyer, and those retards on commentary say he stole Penta's move. What the fuck are you talking about? There's 15 people that do this move. Bad Bunny does this move. Are you insane? First of all, it's not Pentagon's move in any capacity. It's Petey Williams' move, number one. Number two, it's not called the Mexican Destroyer. It's the Canadian Destroyer. You can't just change the name to it. It would be let's say a Mexican wrestler decided to do the People's Elbow and he called it Mexico's Elbow. What? The move is the move, dumb fuck. I fucking hate the way wrestling is going, Just call it what it is. The Canadian Destroyer. Just because a Mexican does it doesn't mean the move gets changed. If Penta does the Olympic Slam, it doesn't become El Slamo Olympiaco or whatever. It's still the Olympic Slam. It's fucking stupid. I hate it very much. Anyways, Dominic should have won the match because he hits the Mexican Destroyer and the 619, and then Penta just raises his knees and eventually hits the Penta driver on Dominic and pins him. After this, Braun Breaker comes to effectively save Penta from a beatdown by Dom and Carlito, right? Penta gets gored as well, as does Dom. Then Finn Balor comes behind, grabs Braun, hits the Nightmare on Helm Street, and that's basically it, right? And I don't like how he uses the Nightmare on Helm Street. Just do the 1942, whatever the fuck, 1902, 1916, that one. Do that. Why you gotta do other people's moves? Also, what a great name for a move. The Nightmare on Helm's Street. That's just great. Anyways, so Finn Balor is left laughing last, I guess, right? Then after this, we have the main event, if you will. The closing of the show. This was obviously a very terrible closing of the show. conceptually at least. But in practice, it was, I don't want to say enjoyable, but there were things that happened here that it's good that they happened, basically, right? So basically, Paul Heyman comes out and he says he's loyal to Roman Reigns and he's loyal to his best friend, CM Punk. Now, here's the thing, right? Paul Heyman is not known to be a loyal guy. Like, Paul Heyman is known to be a coward, right? And a traitor. That's like his character. Now his character of the wise man is simply that he's just a pussy, right? He doesn't have anything going for him. He's just a complete pussy. In kayfabe, it's unclear what Paul Heyman's role is and why he's the wise man. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't say anything wise. He just looks at Roman Reigns and defers to him. He says, whatever you want, my tribal chief. Well, aren't you the wise man? Like, shouldn't you be advising him? Paul Heyman is not a wise man. He's a lackey. He's a pussy, right? And honestly, the fact that they're treating Paul Heyman like a hot girl is weird. It's straight up weird. Like, they're fighting over him like he's their girlfriend. You know? He's fucking Paul Heyman. He's a pussy. He's horrible at what he does as well, in my opinion. But even in kayfabe, it's like, what's he going to do? What's he going to do if he's in your corner? He never impacts the match. You know, it's really, really poorly thought out. Basically, pardon me, cucks, Seth Rollins comes out and he tells Paul Heyman the truth, right? I actually enjoyed this. Now, aside from the, general Seth Rollins nonsense, like, his theme song and his dumbass little catchphrases, right? Where he says, I'm Seth freaking Rollins. Like, everyone's catchphrase now is just saying their name. My name is Paul Heyman. And then Seth Rollins is like, I'm Seth freaking Rollins. It's like, how about come up with something clever? You know what I mean? Anyways, it is what it is. It should be noted that everything that Seth Rollins said was 100% accurate. And that honestly, if we looked at this match objectively, and this pretty much proves that the fans are retarded, Seth Rollins is the face in this feud. He's the one who is on the correct side of things. Everything he said is 100% true. He says Roman Reigns is a bitch for doing what he did for 3 years. Facts. He says CM Punk is a bitch for leaving WWE for AEW. Facts. And for the UFC. And he's 100% true and right when he says that Paul Heyman is not respected by anybody. Right? It's 100% correct. And this is why the match makes no sense. His argument is, clearly, Roman Reigns doesn't respect you. This is not even up for debate. The entire relationship between Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns is that Roman Reigns doesn't give a fuck about him, right? It's that Roman Reigns doesn't give a fuck about anyone but himself, right? This is why, Jey Uso will come out to save Roman Reigns, why Sami Zayn will come out to save Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns is not going to come out to save them. Jey Uso getting his ass beat by Gunther did not prompt Roman Reigns to, come out, right? Oh, he wasn't there. Well, in the context of wrestling, everyone's there at all times. That's the philosophy, right? He should be there. It's his job, right? So he should come out, and it should be explained why he allows people like Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso to get their asses beat on a nearly weekly basis. But every time someone touches Roman Reigns, the whole locker room has to get involved. Fine. It is what it is. I get it. But the conclusion from that is that Roman Reigns is selfish, and he's basically a heel. Last week he called the crowd dumbasses, right? And Paul Heyman is his bitch. It's his lackey. They're not in this father-son or wise man leader type relationship. It's a master-slave relationship. Paul Heyman is the bitch of the bloodline. He's not an equal. This has been established well enough. For example, when after Roman Reigns abandoned him, exactly like Seth Rollins said, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, and the other one would berate him all the time. They would bully him, and they ultimately put him through a table. He would grovel at their feet, right? Paul Heyman is presented as the ultimate beta male. He's a pussy, he's a cuck, and there's no way to like him. I don't know why anyone would like him. It's really weird in terms of kayfabe. If you like what he did with ECW, good for you. Those days are long gone, The character of Paul Heyman is what I have an issue with, right? Then basically, Seth Rollins continues and says, likewise, CM Punk didn't save your ass, right, when the bloodline was bullying you, right? CM Punk was in the company. Why didn't he do something to save his best friend? He let his best friend get his ass beat, right? Roman Reigns let him get his ass beat. And in my opinion, this is the logic that's going to lead to Paul Heyman choosing Seth Rollins as his new client, right? He is a betrayer. He is a coward. he is an absolute cuck and pussy. So it makes sense that he would betray both those guys. And then this would establish that Seth Rollins is the heel. Because right now, it doesn't seem very clear to me. Because he basically tells Paul Heyman, he's like, why don't you step out of this match, right? Why don't you remove yourself from this equation? Since you don't add anything anyways. He didn't say that last part. Remove yourself from the equation so that we can have our match. This is a perfectly reasonable ask from Seth Rollins, right? Seth Rollins is the only person in this feud that is taking the match relatively seriously, because his goal now is that he's fighting for the soul of WWE, which is retarded, but nevertheless a goal. Roman Reigns is basically just there to phone it in, and CM Punk is too excited to main event WrestleMania to care about this, right? This is just how it is, cucks. This is just how it is. Seth Rollins is the real good guy. Then Seth Rollins says, or I could just take you out, right? I could just take you out of like the equation by just beating your ass now. So he grabs him. Paul Heyman says, all of a sudden Paul Heyman spontaneously grows balls and he says, get your hands off me, which is inappropriate. Seth Rollins is a multiple-time world champion. Paul Heyman should be terrified of him because Paul Heyman has always been terrified of everybody, right? Of everybody. He's never stood up for himself one time, except for when he decided to take the beating that Solo Sikoa was going to give him when he said, I don't acknowledge you, I only acknowledge Roman Reigns, right? That's the only time he stood up for something, and this is the second time. He's like, get your hands off me. Then Seth Rollins is going to beat his ass. CM Punk comes out, right? Punk comes out, and he tries to fight Seth Rollins a bit, and basically what happens is CM Punk gets Seth Rollins onto the steps, and he's going to go for the curb stomp. And the dumbest thing of all time happens. Seth Rollins rolls out of the way, rolls back into the ring. CM Punk then dives into the ring, like through the apron and the bottom rope, and then Seth Rollins just stomps him. It's like, what kind of a retard would do this? He just gets in to get stomped. Then Seth Rollins goes for a stomp on Heyman, but does the stomp short and says to Heyman, now you owe me a favor. This part I didn't like. There's no need for this, right? The story writes itself. Heyman betrays CM Punk and Roman Reigns, right? And it's going to go down like I said. He's going to be with CM Punk, let's say, and CM Punk's going to say, give me a chair, Paul. But it's probably going to be Roman Reigns. He's going to be like, give me a chair or something, Paul. And Paul's going to be like, he's going to get a chair. He's going to, instead of throwing it to Roman, he's going to hesitate, right? And then CM Punk is going to blindside Roman Reigns with a bullshit kick. And he's going to say, give me the chair, Paul. And Paul's not going to give it to him. At this point, CM Punk's going to be confused. And then basically, he's going to get attacked from Seth Rollins. And then Heyman's going to give the chair to Seth Rollins. Chair, stomp on one of them, pin, right? That's what I think is going to happen. But all of this is unnecessary without this last statement of Seth Rollins. The logic is as follows, right? Paul Heyman has been abused continuously by the bloodline. Paul Heyman has been neglected by his friend CM Punk, who only stood up for him now, right? He stands up for him against Seth Rollins when he has an interest in him. It's exactly what Seth Rollins said. Seth Rollins was like, yo, he only cares about you when he needs you, right? Like right now he needs you to be in his corner, so he comes and he saves your ass. Otherwise, he's never saved your ass before. So with all that being, the only person that actually has stood up for Paul Heyman really is Brock Lesnar. When he came, he just F5'd Vince McMahon, and Cena and everybody else. So it is what it is. That's what's happening here. I don't care at all. It would have been fun to have Brock Lesnar in this match, just to be the ultimate Paul Heyman guy, but c'est la vie, cucks. The show was really poor, in my opinion. The matches were very lackluster, and quite frankly, it was matches of jobbers who are not going to be at WrestleMania. At this point, Monday Night Raw is starting to feel a lot like Sunday Night Heat did back in the days, cucks. Take care, and go fuck your own mothers, motherfucker.